if you look at the great companies where real innovation is happening, actually, John Chambers again talking about the work at Cisco, great leaders recognize an important principle, which is if you want to encourage creativity and innovation, you have to develop the talent pool, which is what the element is about. But also your job as a creative leader is not to have all the ideas. And I think some leaders think that you know, they have to come up with all the good stuff. And the job of a creative leader is not to have all the great ideas. Their job is to create a culture where everybody has great ideas. But then to encourage them to put the ideas forward and to have some process of evaluating them. It's what happens at Google.
Okay.
You know, famously, where Google has this rule for all its the key staff there, that they have 20% of their time is available for discretionary projects.
Yes.
Their own work. They can pursue anything they want. And if they come up with an idea that they think would be of interest to Google, they can pitch it to the senior management team at Google, and they get 10 minutes to do it, and no PowerPoint. And the premise is, if you can sell this to us in 10 minutes, we'll put it into development and we'll go further with it. But everybody knows that there is an opportunity and a process for it. But if you're in an organization where you think you're likely to be knocked down if you come up with a new idea, or it's going to be resented, or you're going to be made to look foolish, then of course we're all humans, you know, we hold it back. And it's understanding that human factor, I think.
So obviously the leaders have to buy into the whole idea and process.
Yeah.
Probably they have to apply it for themselves first.
Yes.
They have to be creative themselves. And then in the process, like you say, the example of Google, clearly defined. What about the sharing of the value created by the innovation? I don't know in Google, but is the employee owner of part of what he is proposing?
I think that varies a lot, but the principle is important. That I believe that if people are willingly contributing to the creative capital of an organisation, they should be rewarded for it. Now, how they're rewarded for it depends, of course, on lots of different factors, and what type of company, what their contribution was. And it doesn't always have to be a financial reward. I mean, in some cases it will naturally be that. But the very least is that people are acknowledged and recognised and celebrated for the contribution they make. In some settings it may be perfectly appropriate to have some profit-sharing basis. But again, I think you have to judge that case by case and according to the industry and what the contribution is. But I just want to quickly comment on something you said here as well, which is that, you know, the leaders have to be creative. You know, they do in a way. They do in a way. But I remember talking to a company CEO recently, and they were presenting some great projects that had been developed in the organisation. And I congratulated him on it. And he said, you know, it had nothing to do with me. I didn't do anything. They did it all. It had nothing to do with me. And I said, you know, it had everything to do with you. Because although you didn't come up with the idea, you created an atmosphere here where other people feel free to develop these extraordinary ideas for the company. And I'm always intrigued by two things. If I ask people what they do, I almost always ask them if they like it. And when I've been doing book signings, I'm always asking people if they like it. And it's interesting how often people will correct you immediately and say, no, I love it. And that's always a good sign to me, if that's their spontaneous, like I asked you earlier.
Yes.
About if you enjoy your work, and you said, I love it. And you clearly do love it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, whether it's forever, who knows? You know, but having that passion for the work is important, whatever the work happens to be. But also, you know, saying to leaders of companies, or even classrooms, or whatever the team is that you're leading, it always interests me when people say, well, I had nothing to do with it. This was all low. It had nothing to do with me. You know immediately it had a lot to do with them. Because what they did was give people permission. And a lot of culture is about that. Culture in the end is about permission. Whether you can do this, whether you can't do that. All cultures are defined by what permissions we give and what permissions we withhold. And changing the culture is about giving people a different set of permissions. Great creative teams model that. The great teams that I know of are diverse. You know, they bring people together with different ways of thinking and different experiences and different expertise. They're dynamic. They have a process where those differences are a strength, not a weakness, because you know you can get people who think very differently in the same room, and that's the problem.
Yes.
You know, the whole issue then is to have a process where they build on each other's differences. And great teams are unique. They come together to do something. And when that thing is done, they disperse and go and do something else. Pixar's a good example. You know, they bring together different teams of people to work on different projects. And when the project's done, they split up and they go on to something else. All the great creative teams have been like that. And I think modelling those features is one of the ways that you can bring the power of an individual mind into concert with other minds.